What's up, everybody? It's Roger and James here from the fourth episode of the What's on Disney Plus podcast. In this episode, we're going to be quickly running through some of the news from the past week before jumping into our really big topic of the week that kind of came out of nowhere, really, was how Marvel and Disney Plus and what's affecting going on with all the shows being cancelled. Daredevil was cancelled by Netflix last week, and basically Disney Plus was all over the place with being one of the primary reasons. But before we do that, let's just jump through and start off with some of the little bits of news flash from the last week. So first off, Nick Nolte has been added to the Mandalorian cast, which I thought was kind of quite interesting.
Definitely. I mean, we don't know what his position will be, but I think it's safe to assume he'll either be an elderly Mandalorian or some sort of crime boss or something along those lines. Either way, he's still a pretty big name actor, so they're taking the Mandalorian seriously, and I think if the quality lives up to the names that are attached to it, not just the actors but the producers and the directors, this could definitely be a Disney Plus seller. Get people in the subscriptions. So
I think this series is essentially there to boost Disney Plus up. This is they're taking this so seriously. They want it to be top notch. So definitely interested to see where they go. There's definitely kind of going for a bit. He's obviously going to be it's that thing with Nick Nolte. You kind of instantly it was age and stuff. He's going to be someone a bit rough around the edges. You can imagine him in some cantina in like Tatooine very easily.
Absolutely. He's just kind of off in a dark corner, maybe with a bodyguard or two, and our main character kind of comes in and has to ask for a favor or an information or something from him. I obviously we don't know what the position will be yet, but I suspect it will be either elderly Mandalorian or some sort of crime syndicate character. So definitely looking forward to that. But that wasn't the only Star Wars news this week, was it?
No, I think it was Steven Swift or Schniff, was announced as the, I think he's like the showrunner, executive producer for the new Rogue One sort of spin-off movie. He'd previously done The Americans. I'll be honest, I only ever really got like an episode or two into that before he even took over. So he was brought into it. I don't know if you watched The Americans or not.
I've watched a little bit of it, not enough to know whether or not I would have gotten into it if I'd kind of committed to it. So not something I've really watched, but I do have friends who have watched the entire series, and I know that the final episode in particular is often cited as one of the better endings for a show. So this is a solid pedigree. Definitely a veteran, a person who knows what he's doing, and I think bringing him onto the onto the Rogue One project will be probably a pretty safe bet.
And this is also the advantage with the Fox purchase is that they're getting all this talent from FX, and all those shows of being able to have access to them, and bring them into projects and stuff. So that's obviously a good thing. Other quick news was Google have signed a deal with Disney for basically for their digital direct system, which is basically covers Disney Plus, ESPN Plus. It doesn't cover Hulu yet because that's not officially under their banner, but it covers basically anything digital comes under this brand. And it means now that they've kind of can bring Google in on adverts. They've already been doing it on ESPN Plus of having adverts in there. Now, as of yet, I don't know if Bob Iger's actually been like, yeah, there's this thing like no adverts in Disney Plus. However, I'm really not going to be surprised if there's some kind of advertising, maybe a advert on the screen or maybe a single commercial where it's been sponsored by. I can't really come under the idea of this Disney platform being completely advert free. They've said at the moment there's nothing, but even in the article that I put up, there was a comment from some saying that if they do put it in, this will affect this deal as well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this is, of course, coming from Disney being aware of the backlash against Hulu for having the various advertising options within it, and also the power of Netflix by not having advertising, even though they kind of have started trials of advertisements, which has gotten quite a bit of backlash itself. And I think Disney is aware of that, so they want to to kind of ride that out and go, people don't want to see ads, so we'll try to not do
I
ads.
think for me, like with adverts, it's very much about like when you're like, I'm used to, on like Channel 4 or something like it here, and suddenly, you're 15 minutes into the show and then you go to an advert break for 3 minutes. And even on their video on demand system, you have to watch it. They can't fast forward. But watching on, Netflix or Now TV or Disney Life, you don't get any of that. You just watch the whole thing. So for me, that's one thing. But I'm not opposed to a 10-second, 15-second commercial like sponsorship deal like you find on like YouTube, where you get something, or even at the end of the show where this, even it's a little quip that comes over, this episode is sponsored by this. I don't really, to me that's kind of acceptable, or as opposed to when it disrupts your viewing, that kind of thing.
So I would say it depends entirely on when the advertisement shows up, assuming there is one, and then also how much of a shift it is from whatever the ad is to what you're watching. Yeah. So if you put it at the very beginning, kind of like this was sponsored by water. This was sponsored by water, because that's a thing.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that, because it's dropping a name, you're being aware of what the product is, and then it's moving on. If it's a 10-second bumper of, two people talking outside of a coffee shop, and they're obviously super happy and excited, and it's actually an ad for Starbucks or something like that, okay, maybe. But then if you stick that in the middle of the show, like you're in the Mandalorian, and Pedro's character is about to get shot by this person he's trying to hunt, and then, wouldn't you like some Starbucks? I've my Starbucks. I'd be like, no, this is not right. So, like you, I'm probably shouldn't admit it, because if anyone was listening, they'd be like, people are willing to accept. I'd be willing to accept a short bumper either at the beginning or the end, but kind of blended into the credits. So it's not jarring, it's not a shift, it's not a complete change of tone from two happy people in the morning talking about their day to the Mandalorian now being like grim and gruff and very Red Dead Redemption kind of esque. If they can keep it so that it's not jarring like it is on television, just regular television, I would be okay with that.
Yeah, so that kind of line, isn't it? Of like Disney probably like looking at this going, if we're going to do adverts, we might need to do it, whatever we're going to do, start from day one so people get used to it, because there's nothing, it's like Netflix now are in that situation of trying adverts and it's hard when you've not had it. That's the difference of, there's that line of, I think there's going to be interesting to see. We, at the moment, like I said, Disney Plus might not have any adverts, but they have signed an agreement, and the fact that it's already an ESPN Plus kind of says to me that it's going to be coming in. But there was also there was a bit of Marvel news as well, that we have got it wasn't really officially revealed, but Deadline put out that there's a show called Vision and the Scarlet Witch, which is going to be starring Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany. That movie or TV series is apparently underway. They've got a name for it. People are thinking, shouldn't it be called Scarlet Witch and Vision? Because we've been rumored for a Scarlet Witch show for a while, but it's kind of based on both of them. I think it should be good to see where they're going. It hasn't officially been announced yet. A bit like the Winter Soldier and Falcon show. But this is all going to kind of come into our main feature topic as well.
Yeah, and I mean the naming is going to be interesting, just as a point of trivia towards it, I guess. I don't know, Scarlet Witch and the Vision, Vision and the Scarlet Witch. I guess it all depends on how predominant each character is. But they are right; it was originally called the Scarlet Witch, or at least the rumors say it was originally a Scarlet Witch show. So we don't know. I will say this one thing: we obviously don't have any idea what the show is about or potentially about. If they do the kids story arc, nope, not touching that. That is one of the worst comic stories of the last 50 years or so. The Vision and Scarlet Witch having kids, and if you have not read it and you're sitting there going, "Wait, Vision's an android. How are they kids?" Stay with that, because most normal part of that.
Luckily, Disney Plus is going to be family friendly, so it's not going to be like the Netflix show. So they can stay way away from that.
Yeah, you don't even, and to be clear, you don't even have to worry about like the mechanics of how it works. The actual story is horrific, even without like, how do they have kids? No. That is like the tamest question out of that storyline. So yeah, avoid at all costs. Yes. I think that Disney knows that. I think that they know they can't do the kids story, and that's fine. Please.
And also, I'll be honest, I don't think that neither of these two actors are hugely expensive to get involved in for a series. And I also think it'd be a great way of kind of expanding their characters a lot more in the MCU. And like I said, there's a kind of difference to me of like, they turn around and go, oh yeah, we're making a Thor or a Captain America series. I'd be like, whoa, we're getting like, it's like Scarlet was because she's not really a Vision. Then they're not strong enough to carry. I don't know. Would we have a Vision movie? I just don't feel like that would be powerful enough to go.
Yeah, I mean, but we'll see. We need more context for these shows. Like the shows have a lot of potential, but they have to make them meaningful as well. You know,
I mean,
we've seen that with some of the Netflix shows where the core idea is strong, but it's very clear, especially with the 13 episode format, where there's like, how do we turn this 5-episode idea into a 13 episode idea? And that was like the big problem with Luke Cage season 1 was you basically had 2 different seasons in it. It's right around episode 7. It's like, okay, we're changing from that story to this story. And it was very, very clear. So I don't know. And of course, like you were talking about, you've got to have that differentiation between, is it a movie? Is it a story? Is it a show, etc.? So it's all speculation now. We'll see what happens.
And I doubt we'll even see this till 2020, 2021, even if we do. It's a while off, because as much as Disney Plus is launching 2019, late 2019, not everything that's being rumored and teased and announced and stuff is all coming direct on launch. You know, there's that kind of thing. They're going to be spreading it out. But let's get into the feature topic of the show. There's basically, we heard this a while ago. Netflix announced that Luke Cage and Iron Fist were cancelled. They then announced that only last week that Daredevil was also cancelled, which really kind of it was a kind of weird thing of, it was the exact same news as the last 2 shows. And there was a little bit of a kerfuffle. Daredevil caused an entirely like avalanche on social media of, you know, it was trending on, you know, this was like that thing of like, they took the best Marvel show and cancelled it. And it was a bit like, I don't think a lot of people had really been expecting this, because it was a great show. It's like, you normally, when you hear of cancellations, they're bad shows or they've gone a bit dull, or I think the vast majority of people were not expecting it. I'll be honest. I saw it. It was like, yeah, I've been expecting, but I knew this was, you just could tell that it was going to happen because of everything that's going on. And I think we kind of want to get into that a little bit of why this is all going on, rather than, and I think that's the big problem with Netflix. And, you know, we're going to talk about this a little bit more next week about Netflix as a whole. But this whole thing of Marvel coming off of Netflix, this has been coming for years. And unfortunately, this was an existing contract that was being made. Netflix have also got their reason for wanting these shows off the air as well. And, you know, we've still got Jessica Jones season 3, and we've also got The Punisher season 2. Those are still to come. They will get cancelled a few weeks after they've been aired as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jessica Jones isn't even a question. The showrunner has said that season 3 was going to be their last. This predates Luke Cage and Iron Fist cancellation. We know that he owned. I think it's a he. Actually, no. Sorry, I think it's a she. We know that they were only doing season 3 because they felt loyalty to the show. They've already got a contract to work on a different show, which they pushed back so they could finish up season 3 of Jessica Jones. And I think it was generally understood that. You know, once that showrunner moved on, Jessica Jones was probably done. So that shouldn't really come as a surprise to anybody. Regardless, Daredevil will come as a surprise to some people because, you know, they don't follow the news. They don't follow, all the stuff that we do, which is fine. We track it so other people don't have to, kind of deal. But yeah, if you've been paying attention at all, even if you didn't know about the Iron Fist and Luke Cage cancellation, this really shouldn't be anywhere near a surprise anywhere. So that said, it is still disappointing, especially since we don't know what the status of these shows will be in the Disney Plus future.
No.
We can take educated guesses. Disney, I think, has said that they're not planning to deal with these shows immediately.
Well, I'll just read out a little bit here. This is what was said. They said, while the series on Netflix has ended, the 3 existing seasons will remain on the service for years to come, while Daredevil character will live on in future projects for Marvel. So that was quite interesting, because I think when they announced the things for Luke Cage and Iron Fist, Disney Plus officially hadn't been revealed, so that the name hadn't been officially done. So that's a statement being very, very clear about that these shows are not leaving Netflix to go to Disney Plus or Hulu straight away, if at all. The fact that it says they will be there for years to come, very clear and precise, saying that these shows are not going anywhere. There's probably a contract in state that they've got them for a certain amount of time. And then being very much along the lines of the future projects for Marvel. Now, this could be a new series. It could be season 4. It could even be a reboot with a new character and all of it. It could be the animated series. It could be a comic book. It's very vague. But then also Daredevil then said Marvel put out a image of them saying justice never stops, with them sat around, and the trouble is Disney can't come out and be like, we're doing a new show about Daredevil on Disney Plus. The contracts won't allow them to do that. But also there is some issues of who owns the rights to what shows. And Marvel obviously own the rights to the characters, but these shows and the formats might belong to apparently there's been the talk on the internet is from some of the executives, and the producers were in meetings. They were in meetings. They had all the stuff on the board to go for season 4 to go to Netflix, and then they all got a phone call saying it was done, and they weren't expecting it. Apparently there's been problems with the movie studio and the TV studio, them not getting on and not liking what's going on because the trouble is all the shows being done by Disney Plus are being done by the movie team, not by the television side.
Yeah, and I don't know, there's just so many factors in this. It's not even just the contract that they have to worry about. It's, you don't want to burn bridges with companies that you don't have to, and going, hey, yeah, Daredevil season 4 is over here. Screw Netflix. You don't need to.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think first off, the problem is the shows that are on Netflix now cannot go to Disney Plus. They are mature shows. They're not what Disney Plus are going for. If they're going to go anywhere, they're going to end up moving to Hulu, because Hulu is going to be their adult-orientated project when they get it going. So for the time being, we all know they're going to stay on Marvel. The thing is, could they bring a new show to, like Daredevil season 4, might not necessarily come to Disney Plus because contracts, but it might be as well they've got to tone it down and it might lose what it is. But they could easily do Heroes for Hire. They could do a Marvel Knights. They could rehire the actors. They might not. You don't know. The problem is these characters are all over the place. They might just let this all die down. This whole universe might just be done. It's a shame, because I think it's a good universe. It doesn't feel like, but maybe if they had the Defenders series running and you had them coming in and doing out, it might work better going forward long term. We really don't know. And I think that's the thing of, there's stories of it's going to Disney Plus, and then you get the next story goes, they're not coming to Disney Plus, and it's all over the place. We don't have any official answers, and it might be years before we know anything. And that's really the big fundamental problem for it.
Yeah, and all we can do is hope. I do hope that this is not the last we see of any of these characters, Jessica or Daredevil. And I really do hope that when we see them again, it's still the same actors. I suspect that if they did try to reintroduce Daredevil into, let's say, the movies or integrate them into the movie characters who are getting their own shows on Disney Plus. I think the fans wouldn't really accept it that much. We're willing to accept Tom Holland as Spider-Man, but there was never any indication that Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire were part of this same universe that the rest of these characters are. I think we would be willing to accept new X-Men characters if and when the X characters get established into here, because again, those were separate.
Yeah.
These shows were originally sold to us on the idea they are part of the Marvel Universe. They might not directly connect. They don't appear. Well, no, they were definitely. Yeah. This is a connected universe. I
was just going to add because I was watching. I finished off Cloak and Dagger the other day, and there was a reference to Missy Knight and also there's a reference in Luke Cage to the police officer in Cloak and Dagger. So they were actually those shows. They've even actually had a crossover. I mean, they talk about like New York or the event in New York all the time. But there was actually that was the fact that they even in a new TV series there was a nod to each other.
Right, and then on top of that, they've got continual references to the Incident, which is the first Avengers movie. Jason Hammer, company from Iron Man 2, was the one that provided the special bullet that can hurt Luke Cage in season 1. Stuff like that. Roxxon, which is the company from Cloak and Dagger, has been referenced multiple times in both the movies and other shows. Yeah, we were pitched. These are part of the connected universe. Daredevil is in the same universe as Iron Man and Thanos and all these guys. You don't see them in the movies, but they're there. The actions of one impact the actions of the other. And if they were to then come back and say, no, we have a new Daredevil. He's being played by Zac Efron. That's Daredevil. I think people would just be like, no, that's not Daredevil. The Daredevil is who we had in the show for 3 seasons and the Defenders. And it would be a very different situation than the Spider-Man or the X-Men or the Fantastic Four. Yeah,
it could be that they're just going to let these characters go for 10, 15 years and then reintroduce them, or they could. I think it would make perfect sense for Disney Plus to, once this all settled, go, yeah, we've got a brand new Marvel Knights TV series, and it's got these characters in with the same actors, and they get brought in. I think, and it's toned down a little bit. It's money on the table.
A lot in some cases.
So.
It's toned down a lot in some cases.
Especially like the Punisher stuff. But the thing is, I think that you've got to look at it now. If we just take a step back from let's look at first off now from Netflix's point of view. Netflix, they apparently had the control over cancelling or not cancelling. One of the reasons they've cancelled is because they do not want to invest more money in a project which essentially is now advertising their competition. Netflix has had the advantage of being the main player for so long. They have become synonymous with streaming. They've got built-in loyalty for years, and they've got a new generation of people that have got used to the concept of Netflix, of that they are the one-stop shop for everything. Over years, that's been chipped away, but they were the guys that had everything. In 5 years' time, and we'll talk about it next week a little bit more, they won't be. They are only investing in their own original project because that's all they're going to have soon is their own original content. And so the idea of them promoting Marvel shows, which will then work out essentially as an advert for Disney Plus, they don't want to invest that money in that. If you've got this much cash, do we want to spend it on this or do you want to spend it on that? They've got to look at it and go, I'd rather spend this money on something brand new that's theirs, because they've even brought their own, they brought the rights or brought even a comic book company to get their own comic book heroes so they can do their own thing with it that they own, because they know that they need to create their own content because to survive, because they can't survive off everybody else's content like they used to. And essentially, that's the big problem. Netflix are looking at this from a business point of view going, this is not an investment that's going to do well for us anymore. As much as the fans love it, that doesn't come down to the budget. And I think that's the big key point there for Netflix.
Right. And they're also in a very different position than they were when Daredevil season 1 was first announced. Back then, their original shows, whether licensed or otherwise, were fairly rare. They only had a handful. I think Orange is the New Black was coming out. The presidential show with Kevin Spacey, that kind of
House of Cards.
House of Cards was coming out. And that, they had a very small library. I think Marco Polo might have also been coming out at the time. Now there's new shows coming out every week, and they've got their own catalog of very recognizable shows. Orange is the New Black is still coming out. Stranger Things, of course, is a phenomenon. And then they've got just their own content in addition to all the stuff they license routinely coming out. So when Daredevil came out, that was a big deal. Netflix did not have many original series, but now the Marvel shows, all of them are just small fish in an ever-growing pond. And so...
But also, at the same point, when Disney signed those contracts for Daredevil and stuff, and you're talking 2015, so you're talking like 2013, 2012, maybe, when those deals kind of originally got brokered, streaming was still very much in its like early stages, and they've seen the market change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, when you get down to it, there's no reason for them to continue working on these shows. The market, as you said, is vastly different. They still are the leaders in the market for now.
Yeah.
And they're not a stupid company. I would not be surprised if they still were the market share leaders in 5 years. We'll talk about it next week. But even if they're the lead, that would be the leaders with 35% market share instead of the leaders with 60% market shares. I'm pulling these numbers. I don't know what the actual numbers are. But yeah, there is literally no reason for Netflix to continue with these Marvel shows for the reasons you already stated. For their own reasons, they can create their own comic universe from scratch, built from the ground up, to be mature without being DC stupid. The Batman v Superman, it's mature because of this, or Titans over on the DC. I tried watching that, and that was just plain awful. But it's, again, the pond is getting bigger, and the number of people who own the pond is increasing, not just Disney. So the next 5 years are going to be very interesting for this. And yeah, I'll just end with this. I do hope this is not the last we see of these characters and these actors playing these characters. I would love to get these characters integrated back in. I don't know how complicated that will be in terms of like contracts and ownership and licensing rights, but Marvel really should try to make sure that these characters somehow, even if it's like an occasional guest spot on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or if, Winter Soldier and Falcon end up in Harlem and Luke Cage shows up for just, an episode, that I'd be content with that. It wouldn't be ideal, but it would still be nice to have that nod of, hey, here's Luke Cage, and he's going to help you guys briefly while you're working in Harlem.
To me, it feels more like a new series like Heroes for Hire or Marvel Knights. It gives them the flexibility of going, no, this is brand new. This is a brand new series. It's based on the old stuff, but it kind of gives them a chance to restart from, because they might not be able to start. They might not be able to do the Defenders. That might be a contractual dispute that they can't do. So going to be interesting. But from Disney's point of view as well, Disney are going to be launching Disney Plus, and it's the home of Marvel for television and movies. They don't want to be pushing shows on Netflix. They don't want to be pushing. I mean, I think at the minute, we've got Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They've said that season 6 is coming to ABC. Season 7 they've announced, but they it's that weird thing of, are they going to bring, and you got the Runaway season 2 starting in a couple of weeks on Hulu, and you've got Cloak and Dagger and stuff. They don't want these shows on all these different networks. They want them all in one place. I wouldn't be surprised if they all get moved over to Disney Plus. Runaways and Cloak and Dagger and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. would seem perfectly its home there. They're not particularly, they're not mature. Then there's nothing wrong with them at all to bring them over like Daredevil. So they want all of that thing of, this is the Marvel. If you want the Marvel, this is the place to come. I am expecting them. Yeah, it's like, okay, they're going to keep stuff on Hulu, but they want the Marvel brand all together. They don't want it going, we got a new series of Runaways on Hulu. And now we got a new Runaways, and then they're going to want to put them all into one basket, and Disney Plus is going to be that. Whether or not they continue with season 3 on Disney Plus, or of the Runaways, or if Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 7 is the last and then they start something new and start afresh. But they're going to want to have everything in that one place to make it easy for the consumer. The consumer is already moaning about having all these shows on different platforms. So they go, well, if you want Marvel, they're all here. This is the place to get them all in one place, to subscribe for that reason. And that's what they're aiming for. And to get rid of all this confusion. I mean, it's like right now, I've got Runaways on now. I've got Cloak and Dagger on Amazon. I've got Netflix for Daredevil. Those are my 3 Marvel shows. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm watching on Channel 4. I've got 4 networks, all with the Marvel shows on. That's not what they want to do going forward.
No. And as much as consumers, myself included, don't want to segment our own base in terms of, okay, what am I watching tonight? Should I check my Netflix queue? Should I check my Amazon Prime queue? Should I check my CBS queue? Should I check my Disney Plus?
Which I do every night when I go through the apps.
Yeah. Oh, those apps that are what is streaming where are going to explode when the streaming. Yeah. I mean, they already exist, and there are already plenty of websites, but they're really going to just massively explode after the streaming. But despite the fact that we're going to have this market segmentation, it will be nice to just go, I want to watch a Marvel show tonight. Disney Plus. I can watch the Marvel shows, and that will be, or a Star Wars show, because the Star Wars is only going to be here. But yeah, still market segmentation. That said, Disney Plus, when it first was announced, even before we had the name, we knew they were working on a streaming service. I remember very distinctly being like, I do not want to get this because it's yet another streaming service. But they've come out of the gates hitting pretty hard. So minus the Defenders, which are kind of in limbo at the moment, the stuff they have announced both for Star Wars and Marvel, and then to a certain degree the Disney content as well, I'm just like, all right, if the quality backs up these announcements, I'm there. I'm in. Yeah. I will get this.
It does feel very much at the moment that the push has been on the Star Wars and the Marvel stuff. Really seems to be trying to grab the adults' attention, the subscribers, the parents. It's like the Disney side of things. They've not really been pushing that much. They've really not kind of. I think once we start getting into actually advertising and trailers and stuff, we'll start in the back catalog and all the rest of it. But it definitely feels like the Marvel and the Star Wars side of the TV series are what's going to grab the adults, and that's the market. That kind of, all the news coming out. We're not hearing nothing about the Pixar Monsters Inc. show. It's always the Star Wars and the Marvel stuff, which is grabbing the headlines, because that's where we're all adults now watching these shows, and that's what they want. They, as much as Disney Plus is a family-friendly show, a family-friendly thing, they still want adults. They still want, it's not just below the Disney cartoons. They want to make sure they've got everything covered.
And this is important because, as a parent, you can go, I want my kids to watch shows, but they've got tons of options. Kids aren't really going to be making the decisions on what streaming services you're going to have. If you've got Disney Plus, Mickey and Minnie's Treehouse or the Racers or whatever, sure. But you're not going to get Disney Plus for those shows for your kid, because you're just going to be like, no, you're going to go watch Dora the Explorer because that's the streaming service we have, or the TV service we have. On the flip side, as an adult, you're going to go, I want to watch The Mandalorian. We're getting Disney Plus. I want to watch Vision and the Scarlet Witch, or Scarlet Witch and the Vision. We're getting Disney Plus. And then little Timmy and whoever can go watch, Mickey Mouse. But the money making decision will be made by the adults, and they will do the streaming service of what they want. And then the kids will be able to benefit from whatever is on that streaming service for them. So I think Disney's very smart. They're going, we've got Cassian, we've got The Mandalorian, we've got Vision, Scarlet Witch, Winter Soldier, all this stuff. So they're appealing to the people who are going to make the decision.
Well, on that note, guys, as you can see, it's not a very clear-cut picture at the minute of what is going on with these Marvel shows and Netflix and Disney Plus. There's a lot of things being thrown around on social media of people, being angry at Netflix, being angry at Disney, being angry at Disney, going, I'm not subscribing to Disney Plus. It's like, this is not the point of Netflix and all the rest of it, which is going to get into a little bit more next week about what's going on with it all. But this Marvel stuff, it really did explode. I was not expecting this kind of. It was just one of those things of. It really brought to the front table, and in some ways, it's sometimes better to get this out the way now. maybe 8 months or 10 months away from when it launches, because we're going to go through this with Jessica Jones and Punisher, but I think probably this will be the big this will be the peak of that problem.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to hearing what the answer is. We're not going to hear what the answer is until Netflix has finished the shows that they've already contracted to finish. So yeah, it's going to be a while before we come back.
It might be a while before. I think it's at least going to be a few months before the next quarterly. We only really tend to find out information at the minute on a quarterly basis from Disney. But let us know what you guys think of the Marvel issue with Netflix and Disney Plus. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. Remember to go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Like, follow, and subscribe. We need everyone to do that as possible, and sharing, etc. It would be great to do that. If you've got any questions for the show, be sure to get in touch as well. I'm James. Where can I find you?
I'm heroiclegacy.com.
And all right, guys, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back next week. Later.